Hey you guys, it's Peter, and I'm back. Of course I'm back. I'm not going anywhere. Boost! Peekaboo, I see you because I'm YouTube famous now. Available Christmas 2024, the album. Dad, shimmy, shimmy. I'm dreaming of a Smoky Mountain Christmas. You can take the girl from the country, I have heard them say, but you cannot take the country from the girl. Beast! Rock on, gold dust woman. Oh my God, do you know what I just thought of? Oh my God, this has probably already happened. When I say this, a bunch of people will DM me this. They'll be like, well, Peter, it happened like 25 years ago. But anyway, I would say there. So if you don't know that first song, that's from Smoky Mountain Christmas, the most fantastic made-for-television movie with Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton, she really stretches in her acting role in this movie. And she plays a country music star that has just kind of had it with society, right? And kind of had it with the industry and things like that. So she goes back to her home of Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, in the mountains. She goes back to the mountains for Christmas. And she stays in her friend Sally Joe's, I can't remember what her name is, but she stays in her cabin in the woods. And she even shows up there and she goes, oh, Sally Joe, squirrels too, you have thought of everything. Anyway, but then she finds out that there's a bunch of these kids that are hanging out in this cabin. And they're a bunch of orphans from the town orphanage. And they've all like stayed together in this cabin. So she kind of like indirectly adopts them. And then there's this NFL football player, not Travis Kelce, but this, I have to make that clear these days, you know, but there's this, I can't put my lip balm on because I'm so into talking about Smoky Mountain Christmas, but there's this, an ex-NFL player, or was he, I think he was an NFL player or attorney or something, but anyway, and then he is living in the woods. They call him something like Big John or something like that, and the kids are real scared of him, and then she falls in love with him, and then there's this whole thing, and then there's this witch in the woods and all this kind of stuff, and then John Ritter plays the judge. But that's one of the best songs in the movie. I love it. I'm dreaming of a Smoky Mountain Christmas. But one of my favorite parts is that all these kids, there's like 25 kids that live in this house together. I mean, not really, there's like 8. But anyway, but the girl, she's growing up and she don't have her own room by herself. So Dolly Parton goes up there and she's like, well, when me and my brothers and sisters, we all live together, we just hang us a room. And so she takes this blanket and she throws it over this, they put a cord up, right? And she hangs it over between these two beds to hang her a room. She hangs her a room and she goes, and Dolly Parton, one of my favorite lines in any movie, she goes, not bad considering we're only professionals. But anyway, as I was singing that song, I was thinking to myself, because I was getting ready to go into Rock on Gold Dust Woman. But as I was sitting there, I was thinking about it. I was like, oh my God, do you know what we need? We need a Dolly Parton, Stevie Nicks crossover. Like, they need to do a song together. Have they ever? I don't know. I should look that up right now, but I don't really feel like Googling. Sometimes I love it, but sometimes I'm just not really in the mood. And I Googled so much last night watching that Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Did y'all start that? I did a whole video I just filmed it over on my Peter Watches TV channel. Oh my God, you all, that show. I don't even know what to think, but listen, that one gal, Whitney, whoo, girl, you are on my radar. Oh man, you wanted to be famous. You wanted to be so famous in the world. Well, girl, you heavily violated FTC guidelines, talked about how much money that you were making, over $20,000 on a brand deal sponsorship, didn't disclose it appropriately, and I'm going to be making a video about you, girl, okay? Because people are tired of me talking about the other people like Jaclyn Hill that don't disclose, so I'm going to talk about mom talk over here for a little bit. But we're going to do that probably in tomorrow's video, because today I need to talk about this Adam Mcintyre, Ethan Klein kind of thing. I don't know, like, so many people have been asking me to talk about this, so I thought, okay, I'm going to talk about this today. We'll just do kind of like a short video. It's a Friday, and I'll get into all this. Okay, I have notes. So I take notes for all my videos, just to kind of keep my thoughts in mind while I'm going through and I'm watching this stuff. So, let me tell you how this all went down. So, the other day, I saw that Spill Some Tea With Me, which is his account on Instagram. Hey girl, how are you doing? So she posts a lot of like clips of what's going on, and she follows heavily like the H3 podcast and things like that. And so I saw that she posted this clip where Ethan Klein was talking about Adam Mcintyre and calling Adam Mcintyre a creep and all these other little shit or something like that, all these horrible words. And I was kind of like, what is going on here? I'm so confused, right? I was like, I thought that Ethan Klein and Adam Mcintyre got along really well. Like, I remember back in the day that, like, they sent a bunch of the Teddy Fresh clothes to whatever, because Adam always talked about the Teddy Fresh clothes. And then I thought they got along. Like, Ethan was really advocating for the victims of Colleen Ballinger. I mean, he even talked about how he would raise money if they wanted to, like, you know, sue her. Do you guys remember, like, if she sued them, that, you know, he would raise money to hire an attorney? I remember that. I talked about it in a video. And he even had, like, several of the victims on his podcast and made money off that podcast. You know, so I was like, and Adam didn't do it because Adam couldn't be there that time. I think he was at Disney World or something, Disneyland or something like that, but he couldn't be there for that podcast. And, but there were several of the other victims that were on there. And I was like, this is weird to me. Like, why all of a sudden does Ethan Klein, is he upset with Adam Mcintyre? And the only thing I could think about was, and I'll be honest with you, like, I really hadn't been keeping up with that much drama the last couple days because it's the last days at the pool, and I've been trying to go to the pool the last couple days. Well, I had seen, because Spill Some Tea With Me had posted another clip of, it was like 3 clips of Ethan Klein, and I'm not going to include them because, listen, I just don't want to deal with all that. It's like anybody else can include that kind of stuff, but whenever I do, I always, you know, they always want to, like, whatever, come for the video, and, you know, you're not supposed to include clips. It's like fair use, but then they say it's not fair use, and whatever. So anyway, so I'm not including the clips, but this is what the clip was. It's like a 3-minute clip, and Ethan Klein is going off about Moses Hackman, Trisha Paytas' husband, and talking about basically, like, that whenever Moses is upset with Ethan and Hila, Moses goes to his mother and complains about it. And Ethan's kind of like, you need to stop calling your mom, you need to be a man about this whole situation, blah, 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 blah. And at the end of it, Ethan goes, and hey, Trish, how are you? Okay? Basically making it like his issue isn't with Trisha Paytas, his issue is with Moses Hackman. Okay? Well, I watched those clips. I went to the podcast, I watched those clips. I watched the clips on the Spill Some Tea With Me account, which I will link below, and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of made the decision that I wasn't going to cover that. I just wasn't. I was like, you know what? I don't want to cover this, okay? Because if I ever talk about Trisha Paytas in a video, I get a bunch of shit, okay? Now, there are a lot more people out there that are closer aligned with her than me, and there are a lot of people out there that are benefiting greater than I've ever benefited greater. I think y'all need to talk about them people for a while, okay? And stop coming for Peter Monn and tagging Peter Monn and bullshit that I ain't got nothing to do, okay? I don't hardly ever talk about Trisha Paytas over here. So anyway, so I kind of decided that I wasn't going to make that video. Like, in all honesty, there just wasn't that much to it. Like, if Trisha had come out and responded to it, or if Moses had come out, and I don't know, maybe they have, and I don't know anything about it. But I'm sitting there and I'm watching these clips of him coming for Adam, and I'm thinking, did Adam make a video about that? Because Adam has gotten, like, close with Trisha Paytas. Like, they have, like, you know, forgiven each other and whatever, and, like, kind of bonded over the Colleen Ballinger situation a little bit, from what I understand, just from what I've watched, like, you guys online. And I don't watch all of it. I want to make that very, very clear. I do not watch all of it. I just catch little glimpses of it here and there. So I was like, this has to be about, did Adam cover it, and did Adam say something about this, but in defense of Trisha Paytas or whatever? I think I had seen actually a thumbnail where Adam had done like a video about like Ethan and Moses or whatever. And I was like, but what's weird about that is that unless Adam came out in the video and like strongly defended Moses, then what's the take on it? And then like, are you coming for any drama commentary channels that talk about you? Now, what's interesting to me about this is I have gotten so many DMs of people asking me to cover this, okay? And then I've also gotten a lot of DMs where people are like, I am a longtime fan of the H3 podcast. I love Ethan Klein, but the last couple months, he seems rather unhinged. Like, the last couple months, like, he seems, like, very angry, very upset. I don't know what it is. I will tell you this, and I did watch the clips, and I will just give you my take, since people want to know what my take is about this, okay? I think it is a weird vibe for Ethan Klein on the H3 podcast, of which he has cultivated a community of people that follow his every move and know all of his interpersonal things and whatever. I don't think that's weird. I think that's fantastic that he was able to cultivate that group, right? But to that group, to share his distaste for Moses Hackman, which is his brother-in-law, it's not Hila sitting there she sits there on the podcast, but it's not Hila saying it. If it was Hila, that said to the camera, hey, Moses, as my brother, like, I'm tired of the bullshit. Like, you won't answer my phone calls. You won't respond to me in text. But I know if I say it in a podcast, you're going to hear it loud and clear. So I'm saying it in a podcast for that reason. Stop calling mom and bringing mom into our bullshit. You want to sit down and have a conversation with me? I'll have a conversation with you. If Ela Klein had said it, I would have got it. Like, I would have totally understood it, right? And I'm not saying that, that Ethan doesn't have a right to protect his wife in a situation like that. I just know that in my life, like, that's not how we do things. I mean, and everybody does things differently in their relationship and their marriage differently. I mean, I've had conversations with my sponsor and my therapist about this, and they've made it very clear to me that, you know, my role is to stand 100% by my husband and when dealing with his family and vice versa. And then to offer conversation if they want to talk about it, offer support and suggestions. But maybe it's not my place to be, you know, leading the head of the train that's coming for that person. Like, that's not my job, right? And thankfully, in both of our families, we have very little drama that ever occurs ever. I mean, well, first of all, on my side, there's like my cousin, my dad, and my stepmom. And then on Alex's side, there's very few people too. So it's not like there's any drama. But, you know, like, that's been what I've been encouraged to do. So I would encourage you to do the same thing, Ethan, okay? Just based on my own personal experience, maybe just be the support system to Ela Klein and let Ela Klein speak for herself, okay? She's a strong, independent woman. She can do that. She doesn't need you to yell at Moses Hackman on your podcast. She sits next to you quite a bit on your podcast. She can speak for herself to her own brother. I just think that there are some things, I think it's kind of a weird vibe, honestly, right? Like, okay, Ethan Klein has millions more people than I do on my videos. He gets millions of more views than I do. But let's even say on my video, it would be like if and I'm just totally making this up, right? Because I love both my brother and sister-in-laws, right? But let's just say, like, if so my brother-in-law, Juan, who we call Fufu, and my sister-in-law, Jessie, live in San Diego. It would be like if I had an issue with Jessie, okay, who I love and I absolutely adore, and I, like, got in a video and I said, and Jessie, blah, 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 blah. First of all, I would never do that, and I think it's so fucking weird that he did it, okay? And Ethan, if you don't like that, come for me next, okay? Because I can stand on my own 2 feet. I think it's weird, all right? I think is your podcast about family issues or is your podcast about that? And then he's like, well, I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk about. I'm like, girl, fine, okay? But be ready to handle the fact that there's going to be 20 drama channels that are going to cover it. If you can't handle that, you're going to get pissed off and come up with a bunch of lies about Adam Mcintyre and call him creepy and weird and trying to harass your mother when there's absolutely no truth to it whatsoever, then I don't know. Maybe strap yourself in and put your Depends on, okay? Because you obviously can't handle shit, right? And, like, that's the issue. And I've always said from the very beginning with this stuff, because he's hinted out that he wants to get, that, you know, like, he hopes that he and Trisha will make up. He said that the other day. It was like, I've always said that on here, you know, that I hope that we can sit down someday and make up. But, okay, well, you got to make up together as a family. And I think keeping it offline is part of it, right? And I will say this, it's always interesting to me, and I know when I say this, people are going to want to bring in the 400 things from Trisha Paytas' past. And I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about this one singular event, right? If Trisha Paytas ever speaks about Ethan Klein, I'm talking about this literally as an observant drama channel, okay? If Trisha Paytas ever talks about Ethan and Ela, it is huge, right? Like, it is monumental. People, like, I mean, she even says anything a little bit nice about him. It's like, oh, Trisha Paytas talked about that, blah, blah. Okay, for example, I made videos, and so did everybody else, about the fact that somebody commented on her podcast and put, I wish frenemies would come back, and she hearted it by accident, she said, and then took the heart down and all that kind of stuff. That was a huge issue, okay? That was a huge issue because Trisha has no voice when it comes to talking about her and Ethan, blah, 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 Ethan and Ela and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people are like, well, that's because of the past of what was done and what she said about, and I understand that, and I agree with that, right? Okay. But Ethan can sit on his podcast and say all this shit. And it's like, I mean, if Trisha Paytas turned around tomorrow, and I have to believe that she's trying to stay out of this stuff, but if she got on her podcast and said, fuck you, Ethan, okay? Fuck you and fuck your wife, all right? If she said the same things to Ethan and Ela, Trisha Paytas would be decimated for it. Let's just call it for what it is, right? And it's like, at some point, it's like, people don't let Ethan become a grown man and stand on his own 2 feet. It's like, at some point, like, you gotta just take this stuff offline, all right? Like, it's not always about being online, or is it? Or is that what it's about to you? I don't know, okay? But in watching some of these clips, Ethan Klein is somebody that in the past I found humorous at times. I like his take on things at times, right? And I'm watching some of these clips, and he doesn't seem happy. He seems edgy in there to me. I don't know. Other people that have watched him closer have said that to me. They said he seems different in the last couple of months. I don't know. I don't watch him that closely. But I was sitting there, I was watching this, I was like, that has to be what it's about, right? Like, it has to be about him being upset with Adam for apparently, and I'll be honest with you, I did not watch Adam's video, the coverage of Ethan talking about Moses. I just thought, when I watched the clips, I thought, this is kind of a weird take, okay? Like, you know, back when I started drama, back in the day, oh, this is going to get me in some shit right here, okay? But, I mean, people still know. You know, there were, like, drama channels that had, like, 100 subscribers each, and they would all, like, fight with each other, and they would, like, I mean, you would, like, watch a live stream of them, and they'd be like, and when Judy called me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she said that you went to the 7-Eleven, and at the 7-Eleven, you said you bought a Sprite, but I saw the camera footage, and you actually bought a Coke, and they'd be doing these live streams and fighting for, like, 6 hours. It was the weirdest shit I have ever seen in my entire life, and I kind of couldn't stop watching it. I mean, there were, like, fights over gift bags that were given away, and there were, like, 10 people that entered a giveaway, and then there was, like, the right shit wasn't in the giveaway. I mean, that was... And this is what this is giving to me, okay? It's like, okay, I think, like, this does not fit on the H3 podcast. I don't know, girl. Maybe start your own podcast called Ela and I Fight the World of the Moses Hackmans, Miss Packmans. I don't know. Maybe start that as a 14th podcast or something like that. And I got 7 channels, so I ain't nobody for coming for all. But, you know, maybe start another podcast just with you and your wife, and it can just be all about family shit, right? But I think it's a weird take kind of on the H3 thing. It very much reminds me of, I did not invent this term, okay, but it reminds me very much of the bottom feeder drama back in the day, okay, when, you know, like, it's like the fish at the bottom, you know what I'm saying, and they would just, like, fight with each other, and it was so entertaining to watch, but I don't get it, and to be honest with you, Ethan, like, if you called me up on the phone, which you never would, I don't think I've ever interacted with Ethan Klein, not once. I think he'd be very interesting to have a conversation with. I think he's bright. I think he's very, very smart. I love Ela's clothes on. People have asked me, why do you not wear her clothes that you bought? Because I sized out of them. I lost a bunch of weight, and I gave them all to some friends of mine. And so that's why I don't wear them. But I love the Teddy Fresh clothes. I think the Teddy Fresh clothes are of high quality. I think they're very cool how she does them. I love the collaborations that she does and stuff like that. I think they're very smart people. To sit down and have a conversation with him, I mean, if he said to me, Peter, what do you think about all this? I'd say, Ethan, in all honesty, like, I think you're better than this. I really do. Like, to take it to a place like this, I think it really minimizes your voice a little bit when you bring it to a place that this really has nothing to do with it. It really has, this has nothing to do with it. And he'd be like, well, it's my podcast. I can speak about whatever you want to speak about. I'm like, I agree with that. Like, I have a channel, and I can speak about whatever I want to talk about on any of my 7 channels, right? But there are some things I wouldn't talk about because I don't think that they belong there. And I think that if you feel that strongly about it, I think also, like, with personal issues, sometimes things that you feel so strongly about, those are some things that you maybe need to leave off, if that makes sense, until they're kind of dealt with another way. I don't know. It's not his finest moment. That's what I think. I think it's very obvious to me that he really cares about this. And to me, it's protectiveness of his wife. And I 100% get that, right? As a man that's been married to my husband for 13 years and we've been together for 16 years. And so I do know a lot about marriage. Sometimes I have to step aside and let my husband deal with his issues himself and fight his own fights. Like, sometimes that's not my job to step in, and it's not his job to step in and fight mine, right? And I think that's about letting your partner grow and change and evolve into the stronger. It's not just about, like, these gender roles of I'm going to stand up for my woman and stand by your man and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's not about that. It's about sometimes letting them grow and leaving that stuff offline. If you feel that strongly that you felt like you needed to say it in the podcast, I think that's when you guys need to call a mediator and call a mediation between the two couples. And if they're not willing to do that, say on video, say, hey, listen, you know, like, I'm not going to talk about this anymore, but we have tried to pursue this, and when they're ready to reach out to us, we're ready to do it. But maybe leave some of it. I've said this ever since I've ever covered it. It's tacky. It comes across as very tacky. So I was like, is this why he's upset with Adam Mcintyre? Because I watched these clips. Because then I reached out to spill some tea with me. And I was like, can you explain to me what's going on? And I said, I think that there's some videos about it. Well, in that meantime, I watched that part of the H3 podcast. I read the comments underneath there. The comments were not in favor of Adam Mcintyre. The comments were all questioning Adam McIntyre's validity. And this was all stemmed off of Ethan Klein saying in his podcast that Adam McIntyre, he said something, somebody brought up Adam McIntyre, he goes, fuck Adam McIntyre, or something like that. He goes, well, shit. And he goes, he harassed my mother. He, like, tried to meet up with her and made it about age. And, like, he's like, he tried to meet up with her when he was in LA and he was, like, harassing her. And he calls Adam McIntyre literally, like, 5, 6, 7 names. Really pretty harsh names. Okay? I mean, I think when you're talking about allegations, which is weird to me, right? Because he calls Adam McIntyre creepy, right? And when you're talking about allegations of, like, Klein Ballinger, okay, of being creepy, and then he comes out and he calls Adam McIntyre that, basically discrediting to some level by using both of those same words against each other, when you stood on the side of Klein Ballinger. Now, this is why it's a bigger discussion to me, because or you stood on the side of Adam McIntyre against Klein Ballinger. This is why it's a bigger issue to me, because in this moment, and I know that to him he wouldn't see it this way, and I know that a lot of people online that are defending Ethan Klein don't see it this way, because they're like, it was a joke. First of all, when there are comments on there that are saying things like, if Adam McIntyre is acting this way towards your mother, then how do we know that what he said about Klein Ballinger was true? How do we know that what any of the victims were saying were true? In fact, there were lots of receipts that were put up. I'm sure I'm not going to be able to find them right now. Becky, one of the victims of Klein Ballinger, she posted on Twitter something about this. Hold on, I'm, like, going through all my receipts right now. This bag I want to buy and all this kind of stuff. But, so she put up this thing. Hold on a second. I just came to it. She put up here, I'll add that. Okay, so one of the comments on here said, now that all this shit is coming out about Adam, this was the top comment on Ethan Klein's podcast. Now that all this shit is coming out about Adam, kind of got to question all the shit he said and did to Colleen. Okay? So now Ethan Klein has opened the door for people to question the validity of the victim stories. All right? That was where this was really dangerous. When he had previously stood on their side. Okay? So then Becky, she reshared this comment, and she said, I'll add that I wanted to scroll through some of the comments, and this was literally the first one I saw. Wow, who would have guessed this would happen? Totally unexpected consequences of doing this in front of thousands of people. Surely won't cause any problems. So ridiculous, okay, is what Becky says. And Adam reshared it and said, love you, Becky. Now, what was interesting about this, was that Oliver, also a victim of Trump Ballinger's, reshared it, and he said, it's so scary. My tripod fell right as I was getting into Oliver's tweet. I apologize. Okay, so when Becky posted this and said, I'll add that I wanted to scroll through some of the comments, okay, Oliver reshared it, and he said, it's so scary that some of the same viewers of the podcast, when we told our story, are now questioning the validity of Adam's story and the whole situation. So these are the same people that Becky and Oliver sat before on the H3 podcast and shared their story, are now questioning, because of Ethan Klein, calling Adam McIntyre a bunch of names, like one of them creepy. When I was watching it and he called Adam creepy, I was like, that really stood out to me, right? Like, I think that's kind of a strong word. And so when I saw that, I was like, this is really, really interesting to me, right? Well, Adam McIntyre turned around very, very quickly when he saw this, like, as the podcast was going on. And Adam did a couple videos about this. Hold on, let me pull up Adam's channel really, really quick. He did a couple videos about this. He did, like, 2. One was Ethan Klein apologizing to him. I watched both of these videos, like, back to back. The first one, so he does, was Ethan Klein calls out Moses and Trisha Paytas. And I think this is why Ethan Klein responded to Adam this way. One of the things he said was that he had distanced himself from Adam McIntyre, like, in 2021, which I thought was so weird, because I remember watching the H3 podcast when Ethan Klein would talk about Adam McIntyre, and when, like, one of them on the podcast, how did you distance yourself, Ethan, from Adam McIntyre when you were asking him to be on your podcast? Like, how did you distance yourself? What do you mean by that? Can you define distancing yourself? Like, didn't talk to him on a regular basis anymore, didn't shout him out? Because you did for a long time. You did shout out Adam McIntyre for a very long time, right? So that's not necessarily true. But then he does this video 3 days ago called Ethan Klein Calls Out Moses and Trisha, and then the next day turns around and says, Ethan Klein lied about me. Now, this was, Adam filmed this and posted this, and I think tweeted out, or no. Adam tweeted out the tweets defending himself, which were actually DMs between Adam and Ethan Klein's mother, Donna, at the same time, while they're doing the podcast. So Adam's like, I gotta cover my ass because all these people are gonna eat me alive, because all of a sudden, he's got 40,000 people on a live stream. Ethan Klein has 40,000+ people on a live stream, and they're all coming for Adam Mcintyre. Well, the majority of them, okay? Because they're feeding off of Ethan Klein saying all this. It's very damaging. It's very damaging in this moment to somebody that has worked very, very hard to have their allegations be validated. And if we go back to 2020, okay? When they initially came out with the allegations, nobody believed him. And now you have somebody that has been part of the fight against Klein Ballinger coming out against Adam Mcintyre, one of the victims, not saying, hey, listen, I believe that all of the allegations are true and that Adam needs to be taken very, very seriously, but I have issues with his stance on this. And then people are defending it and saying, well, you should have known that Ethan Klein was joking. I read the comments. I read the comments on Twitter underneath Becky's tweets, okay? I don't know if Becky didn't know if they were joking, but I can tell you as a 52-year-old man, I couldn't tell if they were joking. When people were saying things like, no, I do question y'all now, okay? Because of how Ethan talked about it. They didn't even go any further to look at Adam's videos where Adam's defending himself or Adam's DMs. They just took Ethan Klein's word for it. Well, that's very, very dangerous, okay? So then Adam posted a second video, and it's called Addressing Ethan Klein's Apology, and I watched both of those videos, right? So what's interesting about this is that Adam comes out and he proves it wrong with DMs. He proves that Donna, Ethan's mother, actually reached out to him first, and he talked to her about being sick and all this kind of stuff, and that he was coming to LA, and he said, do you have any suggestions for me? Something that I would ask people if I was going to a city I had never been to before that they lived in. And she's like, yeah, these are some suggestions. And she's like, maybe we can all go out to dinner. And he was like, okay. Now, Ethan, when he addresses this on the video, he chooses not to share this part. This is very important, okay? And Donna says, maybe we could all get together for dinner. And Adam gives her some dates that are available. And then she says, what date will work? And Adam says, okay, let's do this date. When Ethan talks about it, because he looks at the DMs online, he picks and chooses what DMs he reads, okay? And still acts stupid. Now, this is Ethan Klein, a man that has gotten to the top of his game by using receipts and reading receipts, and he's literally reading these receipts, and he's acting like, what the fuck am I reading? I don't know what I'm reading. Where does it start? He even says to his mother on the phone, when you can see at the top of the DMs where it started, okay? Any idiot in the world can see that, and he knows how DMs work because he uses DMs on his videos all the time. And he says, who called who first? Who contacted who first, Mom? And his mom's like, I don't know, but she doesn't really remember a lot of it because she's playing a game with her friends, and he's just sitting there eating pizza with Hila Klein, and Hila Klein's sitting there next to him laughing, okay? Like the whole thing is joking, when the credibility of Adam Mcintyre, Becky, and Oliver and the other victims are being diminished by the minute, okay? And people want to know that we should just think that this was a joke from Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein did not think this was a joke, okay? If Ethan Klein in that moment could have proved that Adam Mcintyre was lying in these DMs, if Adam Mcintyre had not proved with these DMs, if he didn't call his mom and his mom didn't side on the side of Adam Mcintyre, Ethan Klein would have pushed this further, okay? That's fact. Ethan Klein would have continued to push this storyline further between he and Adam McIntyre, and then Adam McIntyre was creeping on his mother and all this kind of stuff. That's the truth, okay? And I'm watching this go down, and I'm like, Ethan, what is going on with you? You platform, now it looks to me like you platform these victims just to monetize off of it. Adam McIntyre said that in his video. He didn't say that, but he said, you monetized us telling our stories. You did. You were fully in support of the victims at that time. Now you're turning around when it doesn't fit your narrative because Adam McIntyre has an opposing point of view with you, that it doesn't fit your point of view. And so now you're coming out and you're saying, okay, well, Adam's a piece of shit because he doesn't side with me on everything. So you only had Adam's back when Adam would side with you on everything. So you only sided against Klein Ballinger when those people that were siding with you had your back against everything. That's 6-year-old mentality, and I can't get down with that. And in all honesty, I respected Ethan Klein a lot more than this. I mean, for Ethan Klein to say, no, I thought Adam was a cool guy, I liked Adam, and blah, 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 whatever, and I really felt bad for him with this Klein Ballinger thing, but I didn't appreciate this take that he took on Trisha Paytas. He could have said that. He could have said, Adam, call into the show, we'll talk about it, I mean, you have no problem confronting Tana Mojo on the red carpet and all these things about how she's going to disavow James Charles, and yet you play poker with her. Can you show me the clip, Ethan Klein, on 8th Street Podcast, where Tana Mojo ever called in and disavowed James Charles? She's still following him to this day, okay? So here yet again, you take such an issue with Colleen Ballinger that you have to have the victims of this predator on there, but you play poker with Tana Mojo and you continue to have her on your award show, and she says she's going to disavow, but you never hold her to that. You never hold her to that. She treats you like shit on your own award show, and you continue to hang out with Tana Mojo, right? But then you call the victim of an actual predator horrific names on your podcast and drive a lot of hate to not only Adam, okay, but Becky and Oliver and the other victims, discrediting their stories because there have been people waiting for the last year, okay? Colleen Ballinger super fans waiting, just waiting for somebody with any kind of just power and, you know, any kind of numbers to call Adam Mcintyre out. They've been waiting for that, okay? They've been waiting. Because then they can say, here it is. See, we knew all along Adam McIntyre's a bullshit artist. And if he's a liar, then they're all liars. And then he comes on here and he goes, what was the apology he gave on here? So he calls his mom, right? About because Adam posts these DMs. And he doesn't read all the DMs. And he and Hila are eating pizza and laughing the whole time. And I'm sitting here watching this because I'm knowing this is going on in real time. I'm watching it back. But in real time, he's calling his mom, joking with her on the phone, and eating pizza, and Hila's sitting next to him laughing. And Adam McIntyre is rushing to the computer to find and post the DMs to cover his tracks and save his ass because he is being discredited like crazy to 40,000+ people in a live stream. Now just let's think about this for a second, okay? There's a lot of people out there that don't believe them anyway. Adam McIntyre, Becky, and Oliver have all had death threats, okay? I mean, Adam McIntyre had to move because of death threats. I see grown-ass adults come for them all the time. You know, we're talking about 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds. I mean, the amount of hate they've received over coming out and sharing stories about Colleen Ballinger is baffling to me, okay? That grown-ass adults are wishing them the most harm. I mean, it is so sad to me that we live in that kind of world. And here we have it. Here's Adam trying to rush, not just to protect his story, but protect all their stories. And Ethan Klein and Hila are sitting there eating pizza and fucking laughing and talking to Donna on the phone. And then he asks Donna all these questions, right? Okay. Well, he says to her about this whole situation, and Donna clears it up and is like, well, I don't remember who reached out to who. Well, when you look at the DMs, Donna invites Adam to dinner with her and her husband, and originally with Hila and Ethan too. You can see it in the DMs. Adam reads them in the DMs, okay? It was all Donna's work doing it. Well, she basically says it on the phone call, but also says that she doesn't remember. Then Ethan, okay, slightly jokingly apologizes and says that his mother misled him. And I, at this point, am like, dude, I'm out, okay? I'm fucking out. Because this is, like, so damaging. I mean, we're talking about the Colleen Ballinger allegations are probably the biggest story that I have covered in 8 years of being on YouTube. All right, and the woman still has not come out and taken any accountability for it. She still has a career to this day, not thriving, but she still has a career, okay? She has a vlog channel and a podcast. She's talked about opening summer camp. She's talked about writing another book. She's talked about, you know, going on tour again. And you're talking about victims of all of that, right? And Ethan Klein was somebody that was at the top. And I was glad when he came out, right? And he started talking about Colleen Ballinger and had the victims on there. Because he's got a lot more power than a lot of us do, and he was getting the story out there. Well, within one moment of this joke that your people are saying that is a joke, with one moment of this joke where you said that your mother misled you, you literally discredited Adam McIntyre and the other victims. I mean, it's really, because people follow so closely what you say and what you listen to. Right? Like, they so closely listen to what you say. And that's a great thing, okay? That's a great thing that people find you so relatable and they love you and they find you so funny. But that's also can be dangerous, too. You have to be very careful what you do with that, right? You need to get in a podcast, and maybe he has at this point, but I don't think he has. You need to get a podcast. You need to take full accountability for it. And you need to say that this was powerful, what I did, and I need to retract this statement. And whatever issues that I have with Adam McIntyre, they are personal between what he had to say as a commentary channel about my relationship with my brother and sister-in-law. They have no bearing on him being a victim of Colleen Ballinger's whatsoever. Instead of just, Adam, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. My mom misled me, okay? You're not 12. This isn't a to party in English class on a Friday afternoon, okay? I know you act like that on your podcast, but that's not what it is. This was really, really damaging. It's not just damaging, and this is the thing, right? It's not just damaging for Adam, Becky, Oliver, and the other victims. That Adam and Becky and Oliver opened the gate for other victims to come out and share their stories. There have been other victims, not just of Colleen Ballinger, but of other influencers that have said if they hadn't come out and shared their story, then they wouldn't have been able to share their own story. There have been people that aren't even, haven't been perpetrated by influencers that have just come out and shared their own stories in their own personal lives. But in this moment, if what they're hearing is, later I'm going to be made a joke of on a huge public level to 40,000+ people, and it doesn't really matter if I share my story anyway because people later won't believe me, okay? And really what this is about is that people that were following the H3 podcast never really believed or didn't believe Adam Mcintyre. It was that they believed or didn't believe Ethan Klein. That's a lot of power, right? And so it goes even further past that because you're also speaking about the victims of other people as well that now are not going to feel comfortable sharing because down the road, because this is what happens to victims of abuse, right? Is that people make jokes of it. They always make jokes of it. It's not a joking situation. And honestly, Ethan, having watched you as long as I have, I don't think in the moment you really realize, I mean, this is me giving you the benefit of the doubt, okay? I don't think you really realize the implications of what you were doing. I don't think you thought about it being this deep, which is why so many people can say that it's just a joke. But it is very, very serious, and I think that you really do need to come out and address it. I really, really do, And if this is just about, but the damage is already done. People are saying that Adam and them are lying. But I think that, Ethan, you owe it not just to Adam, but to the victims, to all victims, to come out and address this thing. And I also think it gives you more credibility in the long run, too. People respect you, and I think it'll give you credibility down the road, And your Trisha and Moses stuff, just handle it offline. Anyway, everybody want to know what I thought? That's what I thought. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.